Coming up on the 2014 FIFA World Cup magazine, the southernmost of Brazil's 12 host cities, Porto Alegre. We'll meet Aldir Garcia Schley, the brains behind world football's most famous combination of colours. And take in the sights and sounds of the Grenal, one of the fiercest football rivalries in South America. Welcome to Porto Alegre, the capital of Rio Grande do Sul, the fifth most populous state in Brazil. First settled in the mid-18th century, Porto Alegre has blossomed into a thriving city, which has much to offer the many visitors who'll come here in 2014. It's currently home to around 1.5 million people, many of whom embrace the gaucho culture and lend their support to one of the city's two top-flight clubs.
Welcome to Porto Alegre.
This weekend we have a Grenal, Grêmio and Internacional, the Porto Alegre derby. Before the game, a boat ride.
Cisne Branco is a very traditional boat in Porto Alegre. Many schools do excursions here, so the children can learn about the Guaíba River. They get to know the history and are shown its beauty, so Cisne Branco is very well known.
Porto Alegre and the state of Rio Grande do Sul was the birthplace of many a famous Brazilian, among them several former presidents and Ronaldinho Gaúcho. And one or two have invested their wealth in property on the banks of the Guaíba.
These islands had other uses in the olden days. Some served as prisons. Others, like Ilha da Pólvora, were used to store ammunition. There are many islands. Today, some people live here. There are gated communities, and small cities have developed along the Guaíba.
We hope you liked the boat trip.
But now we're going to show you our hobby.
Vander and Leticia are members of a CTG, a centre that focuses on the traditions of the Gaucho culture. Traditional dancing is our host's speciality, and the group they're a part of has won the state championship on 10 occasions.
There are people who like funk, some enjoy samba, and there are those of us who like gaucho music. It's a hobby with responsibilities.
Many of our friends who are not into their dancing don't really understand, but they do enjoy watching us dance.
As Vander and Leticia continued their rehearsals, we headed back to the banks of the Guaíba. As is customary in these parts, we joined dozens of gauchos at the Gasômetro, a disused power plant, which is a popular place to watch the sunset on another beautiful day in Porto Alegre. It's hard to believe on this evidence, but there was a time when Porto Alegre's Estádio dos Eucaliptos was one of the most impressive football stadiums in South America. Once the home of Sport Club Internacional, this was one of the 6 venues chosen to host matches at the 4th FIFA World Cup. The stadium was opened in 1932, and in its pomp, the terracing could hold as many as 20,000 fans.
These stands were upgraded for the World Cup because this used to be just a standard old stadium. At the time of the World Cup, it was something to behold, something quite wonderful. You can see the radio boxes up there. They're still here today. The media loved it at the time. The radio boxes were right at the top.
Sergio Lubianca was just 15 at the time of the 1950 tournament and was already working as a horse racing journalist for one of the city's newspapers. More than 60 years later, he still has fond memories of that World Cup year.
The atmosphere was terrific. It was a great year for hotels, restaurants, nightlife, everything. It was absolutely incredible here in Porto Alegre.
Yugoslavia faced Mexico in the first of the two games played in the city, and Sergio was there, having secured himself a ticket from his employers.
The difference between Yugoslavia and Mexico was huge. At the time, Yugoslavia had a great team. Not like today, now the country has been split apart. Their team back then was fantastic. Mexico scored a goal in the last minute of the match, but Yugoslavia won 4-1. I had a friend, Boris, who came over from Yugoslavia to Porto Alegre to watch the games. He enjoyed the matches and liked the city. He fell in love with the place.
As did the Switzerland squad, who took time out before their encounter with Mexico a few days later to visit a fruit plantation in Porto Alegre. Brazil had secured top spot in Group 1 24 hours earlier, so there was little more than pride at stake when Switzerland took on Mexico at the Eucalyptus. And from the first whistle, the outcome of the game was never in doubt.
Switzerland beat Mexico 2-1. Again, Mexico scored in the final minute. Scoring late on seemed to be their thing. It didn't seem to matter if they won or lost. They just had to score in the last minute.
Horacio Casarin's late consolation was the last goal scored in a FIFA World Cup at the Estadio dos Eucalyptos. The last official match here was played in 1969, but the land has only recently been sold. It's now in the hands of property developers, and the area should look like this come 2014, when Internacional's current home, the Estadio Beira Rio, will host 5 matches at the 20th FIFA World Cup.
It's a great opportunity for the city and a wonderful opportunity for our club to present itself to people around the world. Thanks to the World Cup, millions of people will get to know a lot more about Sport Club Internacional and also about the city of Porto Alegre.
Situated on reclaimed land on the banks of the Guaíba, the Beira Rio is in desperate need of a facelift. An estimated $167 million of private money will transform the stadium over the next couple of years. It will boast a new facade, covered seating, and the lower tier will be moved closer to the pitch.
The fans helped build this stadium. When Beira Rio was first built, supporters would turn up with cement, iron, and everything needed to construct a stadium. This whole place was built by the fans.
The fans won't be needed this time around, at least not until 2014, when 50,000 of them will pack the Beira Rio for Porto Alegre's first match at the 20th FIFA World Cup on Sunday, June the 15th.
It will be ready in time. Beira Rio will be in top condition. It will be a stadium of European standards.
Brazil's canary yellow shirts, blue shorts and white socks are synonymous with style, skill and, of course, success. The Seleção Brasileira has won 5 World Cups in this combination of colours, which was the product of a newspaper competition in 1953. 3 years earlier, Brazil, who at that time played in an all-white strip, had been expected to win the 1950 tournament on home soil. Newspapers had even proclaimed them as champions on the morning of the final game, only for Uruguay to spoil the party in the Maracanã. It was a day that Aldir Garcia Schley remembers well. Just 16 at the time, he'd skipped across the border to neighbouring Uruguay to watch the latest Roy Rogers movie in a theatre in Rio Branco.
Suddenly, they cut the film and we all started to stamp our feet because we thought the projector was broken. Then there was a noise and a voice announced in Spanish, The game in Maracanã is over. Brazil won, Uruguay 2. We, Uruguayans, are the champions of the world. Then they played the Uruguayan national anthem. How could I not become a Uruguay supporter after that experience?
The defeat to Uruguay triggered months, if not years, of national mourning. And in 1953, a change of kit was deemed necessary as part of the healing process. A competition, which was sponsored by a national newspaper, invited new designs for the new apparel.
Initially, I wasn't going to enter the competition because I didn't quite understand the rules. I thought you had to put all 4 colours of the national flag on the shirt. I found that ridiculous and decided not to enter. Then I realised that it was possible to interpret the rules differently by designing a shirt that favoured the colours that represent our identity, the green and yellow, leaving the shorts and socks to take care of the blue and white. On these shirts here, you can still see the 4 colours because I thought that they all had to be present on the shirt. Then I made more elaborate drawings, even with the players' names. Luizinho from Corinthians, Pinheiro from Fluminense, Ademir from Vasco, and Baltazar from Corinthians. And from the hundreds of drafts, I kept this piece of paper with these 3 shirts. It's at this stage that you can start to see the original design. What I mean is the yellow shirt with green trim and the blue shorts. I found out about the results one day before they were announced on the Correio da Manhã newspaper. The newspaper published a reproduction of my drawing on December the 15th, 1953, with my artistic name, Alchi. The caption read, "The future strip of the Brazilian national team has a green and yellow shirt, etc., etc." The paper would announce the name of the winner the following day, but I knew I had won. When I saw it, I thought, wow, I'm the winner. How amazing.
Schley received many prizes for winning the competition, among them a trip to Rio de Janeiro, where he spent time living with the national team. He soon became disillusioned with the players' off-field antics, though, and returned to Rio Grande do Sul to pursue a career in journalism. Almost a lifetime later, Schley is a successful author, whose forthright political views saw him imprisoned by the military government on more than one occasion in the 1960s. He's now 77 and looking forward to the 2014 tournament, where the colours he created are sure to be worn by many Brazilians. Not by Schley, though. He still lives in Brazil's southernmost state, but he continues to favour Uruguay, both on and off the pitch.
I was born in the border town of Jaguarão, just 200 meters from Uruguay. You only need to cross the river, and there, on the other side, the people were supposed to be different, speaking a different language and so on. But we're all the same, and I've always identified very passionately with Uruguay.
How ironic that a fan of Uruguay, the country that inflicted on Brazil its most humiliating defeat, should be the man to have designed the combination of colours in which the Seleção has become the most successful team in World Cup history.
My name is Carlos Eugenio Simon. I'm 46 and was a football referee for 27 years. I was a part of FIFA's official lineup for 14 years and have taken part in every FIFA competition. I learnt a lot and saw the world, thanks to my whistle.
Carlos Eugenio Simon is Brazil's best-known referee. Recently retired, he officiated at the last 3 FIFA World Cups. We caught up with him at his home in Porto Alegre, where his study is something of a shrine to a career at the highest level.
This is from 2002. The World Cup was hosted by Japan and South Korea, and I was there with Jorge Paulo Gomes, my assistant. We worked on 2 games, England versus Sweden and Mexico-Italy. This one's from 2006, the year of the World Cup in Germany. I was involved again, together with Aristeo Tavares and Ed Nielsen Corona. We took charge of 3 games, Italy-Ghana, Spain versus Tunisia, and Germany-Sweden. And this is the famous Jabulani from South Africa's World Cup. I was there with Altimir Hausmann and Roberto Bratz. We worked on 2 games, the clash between England and the USA, which involved a lot of tension, and Germany against Ghana.
There are balls here from Intercontinental Cups, the Copa Libertadores, and several finals of the Brazilian Championship. Memories galore for Senor Simon, who had hoped to play professionally until fate intervened.
When I was in secondary school, there was a problem in a tournament and there was no one to referee the final. Some guys said, "Why don't you get Simon to do it? At least he can play football." And that's how I started. I went home and made my red and yellow cards. My sports teacher was a referee for the State Federation, and he told me, "You have what it takes to become a referee." That was when I began refereeing, and I did it for 27 years.
The game changed massively in those 27 years. While some officials turned professional in an attempt to keep pace, Simon was never offered the chance to give up his job as a journalist to concentrate on refereeing. Not that you'd have noticed. In 2010, he was both fit enough and good enough to be one of the 29 referees at his 3rd World Cup in South Africa. And things went well for him in the 2 matches he took charge of, which isn't always the case for the man in the middle, even when he has a good game.
In 30 years, I never saw a director say he'd hired the wrong person, or a coach say he'd made the wrong substitution, or a player who'd missed an open goal say he was to blame. It's always the referee's fault.
While still involved in the game in a journalistic capacity, Simon has hung up his whistle and packed away his cards for good. So what advice for those officials who are just starting out?
Don't try to please everyone. A referee who goes onto the pitch trying to please A or B will not please anyone. You should whistle to what you see. Today, a referee must be in good physical shape, know the rules, and possess a technical and tactical knowledge of the game. Know the moves and the tactics. The more you know about the game and its players, the better.
Two clubs dominate the football landscape in Porto Alegre. Those fans in red support Internacional, those in blue follow Grêmio. Both clubs have won the Copa Libertadores, both have been champions of Brazil, both teams have also won the Club World Championship. But nothing matters more in this part of the country than victory in the Grenal.
There are many classic derbies in our country, but this is seen as the one with the greatest rivalry by the Brazilian people.
We usually say that a Grenal is a championship in itself because the rivalry is huge here. It means so much to the fans. I think they would forgive us for losing some matches, but you must not lose a Grenal.
In 2011, Porto Alegre was one of 6 cities to boast 2 or more clubs in Brazil's top division. Whilst Inter has never been relegated, Grêmio has missed only 2 seasons at the top level. Records that are a source of pride for those involved.
Internacional has been doing very well, always competing for at least one title every year in South America, and sometimes on the world stage as well. The same is true of Grêmio, who've also been doing good things, and who are growing as a club. I do think the 2 teams deserve success, and they represent our state very well.
Whilst Internacional are renovating the Beira-Rio, Grêmio are in the process of building a new stadium. The Grêmio Arena is set to replace the Estadio Olímpico Monumental, which has been the club's home since 1954. And it should look like this come December, when the stadium is due to open its doors for the first time. It'll boast a capacity of 60,000 on match days and even higher for other events that'll be staged here.
Grêmio decided to change stadiums to create a multi-purpose arena that'll give our fans more comfort. The greater capacity will also generate more income. That'll enable the club to have more money available to invest in a great team.
On the pitch, whatever the stakes, the Grenal is always fiercely contested. The 389th edition, played in December last year, was no exception. Referee Leandro Voaden was in the thick of the action throughout. As often happens in a local derby, the game lacked any real quality, and chances were few and far between. Internacional should have broken the deadlock early in the second half. Indio's header was just a whisker away. Then, on the hour mark, the game's decisive moment. Quick feet from Oscar, and Fabio Rochenbach sent the young midfielder tumbling to the turf. Penalty. Argentine midfielder Andres D'Alessandro swept Internacional into the lead, and it was an advantage they never looked likely to relinquish. Eventually, the demonstrative Voaden called time on the Grenal. The 1-0 victory saw Internacional finish 5th in the Brazilian Championship, 12 points and 7 places above Grêmio. A berth in the Copa Libertadores, and the bragging rights were theirs.
I always dreamed of becoming a footballer. It was utopia to play in a World Cup, let alone lift the trophy as the captain. Only a few players have ever lifted the World Cup, and I've experienced the joy of being one of those people.
Almost 18 years after captaining Brazil to a 4th World Cup triumph, Dunga's leadership qualities are still very much in evidence at Citizen Sports Club in Porto Alegre. More commonly referred to as the Dunga Institute, the facility is the latest in a series of charitable projects initiated by the former midfielder.
Football allowed me to see the world and experience many cultures. It opened many doors for me and still does today. So this was a way of giving something back to society and to the people of Porto Alegre.
It's good here. It's more of a recreational place, but we do learn many things. There are things that we don't know how to do. We must make the most of this opportunity and spend time here rather than out on the streets.
The Institute uses sport, and football in particular, as an attraction, as an incentive for the children to come here. We work on the same things that football focuses on: discipline, leadership, technique, teamwork, humility. What I do is try to help those who want to have a life similar to mine achieve their goals and be someone in life too.
Founded at the start of the century, the Institute is a non-profit organisation and is managed on Dunga's behalf by the YMCA. The focus here is on the development of young people as human beings, and in the 10 or so years that it's been operational, dozens of children have gone on to secure themselves a meaningful and responsible role in society.
When we see that someone has a job, that's priceless. When I go to a restaurant and someone says, "I was on your project at Citizen Sports Club," it fills you with joy. We are forming citizens.
As far as role models are concerned, there can be few better than Dunga. He played for his country in 3 World Cups, 2 of them as captain, and then coached the Seleção in South Africa in 2010. It's fair to say that he knows the tournament better than most. So what can we expect from Brazil as a host nation in 2 years' time?
This is a nation that loves football. We may lack 1 or 2 material things, but we will compensate for that with the warmth of the Brazilian people. They will turn it into a unique event in terms of the atmosphere, similar to how it was in South Africa.
Dunga will have a watching brief in 2014, but you get the feeling that football has yet to see the last of one of the small band of men to have lifted the game's greatest prize.
After the World Cup, I took some time off to organise my life. But next year, I will certainly get back into football. That's what brings me the most pleasure.
Next time on the 2014 FIFA World Cup magazine, we visit Recife in Brazil's northeast. We hit the beach, go dancing, and meet Mauro Shampoo, a hairdresser with a difference. And we discover the passion for football in a city with more than one leading club. Until then, goodbye.